One of the biggest mistakes, especially newer players make, is that they're trying to force shots that the incoming ball doesn't allow them to hit. Let me explain. No two balls are exactly the same. And in this video specifically, we're talking only about forehands. But even if you're playing, for instance, on a ball machine or in a lesson when the coach feeds you the ball, no two balls are ever exactly the same, very similar. But then, of course, when you're going out and you're playing live balls, your partner, opponent hits with different depths, height, pace, width, and spin. And you have to adjust accordingly. But in order to do that successfully, you have to know exactly which pieces of the swing you have to have and where you have a little bit more wiggle room with which to manipulate your swing. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about in this video. And we're not even talking about the stances in this video. That's a totally different video. Obviously, I'm in my ready position. My left arm pretty much helps me on my turn. I have it on the throat of my racket, and it helps me lift the racket so that the racket face is above my hand, my hitting hand, my dominant hand. And you see that I keep the left hand on the racket to about midline here when I turn to you. Once I have the racket head above my hand, I simply let gravity take over and let the racket head drop under my hand and under the incoming ball. And I also make sure that I have my lock-in position, meaning that the butt cap points to the incoming ball. That's a super crucial position. And then I pull up and forward to my contact point, and I fall through in a way that the side with which I made contact points to the outside. Which parts can I now manipulate and which are absolutely non-negotiable? They have to happen the exact same way every single time. To my mind, you can either shorten or decrease the extent to which you're executing a particular part. Everything except the lock-in position. You have to have the butt cap pointing to the incoming ball, non-negotiable. And if you want to learn why that position is so important and why it should not be forced, and there also is no psh, psh, go check out this video. Every other part of your swing can be manipulated, decreased, shortened to an extent, but you still have to have them all, and of course in the same sequence as on your regular nice feet right into your strike zone forehand. It's finally getting warmer, and where I live it gets humid very quickly, which means I sweat a lot more. So I've started using the ADV perforated over grips, who have the same great feel as the Felt-Tech grips, but because they're perforated, they absorb the sweat even better. So if you want to see what 1,800 positive reviews are all about, go ahead and try the perforated grip. The depth of your turn and the size of your loop, for instance, depend on the pace and the depth of the incoming ball, because you simply may not have the time to execute that turn to its fullest extent, and you may not have the time to bring your racket up as high and then let it drop as low. So you may have to manipulate that. So if I were to now turn as much and have as big of a windup, as big of a loop, obviously I'm hitting every single ball late. So if the ball comes this deep, I might not have the time to turn as far, and I'm certainly not having the time to execute as big of a loop. So I'm simply not turning quite as much. I'm still turning, still have the racket over my hand, but I'm also really decreasing the size of my takeback. How low I'm letting my racket head drop, for instance, depends on the height of the ball. So on the lower ball, obviously I'm going to let that racket head drop very low because I still have to get under the ball. Then if you have a higher ball, Obviously, you're not going to let your racket drop all the way down here and then produce a shot like that. You will still have that loop, but the loop is higher, and I'm probably not going to let my racket head drop quite as dramatically. Unless I want to hit a topspin lob where I have to really steepen out my swing path. Whoa, that was horrible. The follow through obviously depends on all the previous components, but of course also on what I'm trying to do with that ball. So for instance, if I hit a topspin lob and kind of finish like Rafa, I have an inverted finish. If I hit a fairly regular ground stroke, I might finish here over my shoulder or around my biceps. But if I'm trying to do this, and by this I mean hitting a short angle, I might finish right here over my hip. One of the best ways to learn how to adjust is obviously to play live ball, live ball, live ball. Play with everybody possible. If they have weird shots with hacking, heavy topspin, anything funky will actually make you a lot better. And of course, it helps to realize that you don't have to stick to the exact form of your swing come hell or high water that you learned in a lesson. And if you have nobody to play with, if you have access to a ball machine, go ahead and use the random setting, because that still enables you to work on adjusting to different balls.